Welcome back to another video. My name is Abby, and today we are talking about how to use the Neville Goddard technique of revision. Now, if you're new to this channel and you want more videos like this one, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button. It's going to let you know when I release new videos. And if you like this video, a great way to support this channel is simply by clicking that like button. It really helps to spread this information, supports this channel, and lets me know you like this content. So let's get back to the video. How to use a Neville Goddard technique of revision. First, let's understand what Neville Goddard's whole teaching is. Basically, your world right now is reflecting back to you the sum total of what you believe to be true. It's heavily based on the assumptions you have, which is what you give permission and consent to be true for your life, about who you are, about how things work. Another level to this is Neville talks about feeling. And basically the reason why feeling is so important is because feeling is how thoughts get to the subconscious. That's how they impress upon it. And whatever is impressed upon your subconscious is how you're going to live. That is basically going to be your structure. A lot of those things come from when you're a child and how you grew up and people who you're around, authority figures specifically. And if you're not aware of what it is that you actually deep down subconsciously believe, you're basically running a program of who you are that you're not even aware of. So a lot of those beliefs can come from having a negative experience. So this technique is about what happens if you have a negative experience. This video is actually inspired by a comment, and that was about how can you use revision when it comes to conflict with people, whether it be family or business or whatever it is. I made this video to specifically address this question. So what happens? You have a bad situation, somebody says something, you have a conflict with somebody, whatever it is, that's where your focus goes, right? This thing happens and you're focusing on it, because when you have a very strong emotion in your body, something that caused it, that's, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, how you create memories. Something outside of you, something happens and you're like, okay, I want to take special note of this because this gave me a huge flood of strong emotions. You focus on that thing. Where you put your focus and your attention, it gets power. It essentially gets activated. Now, normally this is fine. Something happens outside of you, you have some emotional reactions, and you can come back to homeostasis, a state of creation, moving out of that survival mode, realizing, okay, you're not in danger, everything's okay. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you stay in that? Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that is an emotional refractory period. So the reason this is so important is because it shifts your perceptual filter to showcase and highlight that emotion. So for instance, if you're angry, you will filter out everything that goes against you being angry, and you will literally only see things that are going to make you more angry. The same can be for disappointment. The same can be for jealousy, whatever it is. Literally, your RAS, your reticular activating system, will filter out everything else. Your perception will only be able to see what's going to perpetuate and build up that emotion in which you're already feeling. So if you're in this emotional refractory period and you're angry or you're irritated, you're going to look into the world, find other things to perpetuate that emotion, and then you're going to feel that more. Now, Dr. Joe says that if you have this feeling, this period for a couple days to a couple weeks, that's called a mood. You're in a bad mood. Something happened, you've been out of shape about it, having this long experience. Well, if that happens to be from weeks to months, that's actually called a temperament. That person has this negative temperament. They are angry about this. They are sad about that. They are whatever it is. They're just in that long refractory period. And if this actually lasts for years, it's called a personality trait. And one way to kind of get a better idea of this, in which I mentioned earlier, where you do have an emotion, that's not wrong. Emotions aren't wrong. They are indicators of something going on inside of you. And you using those as call signals, as kind of like alarms, and going and investigating is what they're there for. They're not there to feed on and continue and to perpetuate. For instance, when you see two animals, particularly two dogs, and maybe they don't really get along and they kind of get in a little fuss, and then they walk away and they literally shake it off. They're shaking off that, and then they're back to homeostasis. If that's what you experience, that's perfectly fine. You have this emotion and then you come back to homeostasis. The issue happens when that emotional refractory period is elongated. And the reason I'm talking about this is because the art and the technique of revision is here for when you have those experiences in your life, you basically get to revise them. And the etymology of this word comes from the Latin word meaning to see in a different way. So in the other way, you're in this big emotion and you're stuck. And you want to start seeing these situations from a different perspective so that you can get in alignment with that which you want to, the wish fulfilled, right? You have this ideal about a relationship or your job or a certain amount of money that's going to make you feel a certain way. You right now have to move into that state. The art and the technique of revision is to help you shift to that state of being, which is how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So if we're going to use this technique to shift out of what you were doing and shift, even though this thing has already happened, you want to see it in a different way so that you can become unstuck. Dr. Eric Kandel is a Nobel Peace Prize winning doctor who in his work says that 50% of your memories aren't even true, because what happens is we look back and whatever it is that you in, whatever state you're in right now, you actually influence that memory. So it's as if you're on a computer and you open that file. If you're in a great mood, it's going to influence whatever it is that you're looking at. If you're in a sad mood, if you're in an angry mood, if you're in a disappointed mood, whatever it is. So when you close that file, that version of you which opened it is actually going to influence the memory. So you can see over time if there's a specific instance that happened, an event where you're having this long refractory period emotionally, well, every time you open it and revisit it, it's getting more and more and more distorted. So you're actually basing your current view off of something that happened to you that actually didn't happen in the way that you're feeling that it did. So there's a lot of mutation that happens in memories, and that's why this technique of revision is so powerful. In fact, your brain, when we're working on this technique, your brain does not know the difference between a vivid sensory experience where you're just visually playing out and rehearsing the situation that you're wanting to experience and an actual real life event. Your brain doesn't know. So the plasticity of it, you're able to actually form new neurological pathways. So if someone took a brain scan of you, it would look, your brain would literally look as if you experienced that event. So again, the big thing you're looking for here is to shift states. If you're in that old state of anger, if you're in that old state of pain and suffering, you want to be happy, abundant, and fulfilled, you need to move into that new state now, because at the first part of the video, I talked about how Neville says that your current life is the sum total, is the reflection, is the echo of who it is you think you are, how it is you think you're supposed to move in the world, and if something has happened to you in the past, how and who you can be because of that. And when it comes to revision, what it is you're visiting something that's upset you, something that sent you off course, and you're going to look at it from a different view. You're going to tell a different story, because the biggest thing on why it is that's bothered you so much is because you've given it a meaning. You've given it a meaning on why somebody treated you some way, why something happened to you. Maybe you got fired and you're like, oh, that person fired me because I don't have anything to offer. I am not very valuable. You're giving that a meaning. You do not know what every situation is, what that person's going through. And no, you should not spend your time totally giving people excuses and permission. But what you can do is stop giving yourself a negative meaning. Stop giving the power away. Keeping the power, realizing that's something beyond me. It doesn't compromise my value, what I offer, or what I'm capable of in the world, and starting to revisit past things that have really shaken you up and made you feel less than, made you feel not whole, not complete, and not loved. Revisiting those, seeing them from a different perspective so that you can retell the story of who it is that you are right now. The one way I would recommend to use this technique as starting off is to spend the last 5 minutes of your day as you're going to sleep and replay your day. Maybe negative emotions that have come up, look at that, retell the story, look at who you are in that context, making sure that you reframe it and you review it as you an empowered state. You're going to be taking that into your subconscious. It's going to be getting into the theta brainwave because your brain's going to go from beta, which we are in right now, alpha, which is a little more relaxed, and then ultimately theta, which is essentially the gateway of direct communication between you, your conscious, and your subconscious. So if you're revising and you're retelling the story of who it is that you think you are, and you're aligning it with the vision of who you want to be, having that wish fulfilled, living in the end right now, you will begin to create that who you want to be right now and start to completely change course, shift states, and send out a new electrical magnetic signature into the universe, as Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, which will automatically give you a new experience and pull out information from the quantum field of that version that you want to be. When it specifically comes into having conflict with somebody, you have to ask yourself a couple questions. One is, what meaning are you giving it? How that person's treating you? Are you putting yourself in a certain circumstance or certain role? The second thing I would ask is this person reaffirming an emotional addiction? Are they making you feel angry? Are they making you feel unworthy? Are they making you feel unloved? If so, think, when's the first time you felt that way? That person is helping to reflect a part of you that is hard to look at. And what you can do is take that opportunity and go deep inside and get into that shadow, those things that are unconsciously controlling your life, unconsciously contributing to where it is and who it is that you think you can be, and use it as a reflection to go deeper. Did you have something as a child where somebody told you weren't good enough, or someone acted like you weren't lovable? You get a chance to revisit that, re-reason out with your adult brain, and retell that story of who it is that you are. The best thing that can happen from this, and when you have a conflict with someone, is it brings greater awareness of you to yourself. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, hit subscribe. If you haven't done so already, like this video, and I'll see you on the next one.